They fired me the day I saved them $180 million. Not saved in some abstract way. I literally prevented a defense contract audit agency investigation that would have banned us from federal work for a decade and sent our VP to federal prison. The radar system contract I'd flagged that morning contained DCAA violations so obvious they might as well have been written in red ink. But Pierce Hamilton didn't want to hear about problems. He wanted signatures and speed. So naturally, he fired the guy who actually read the contracts. My name's Rob Martinez, I'm 47 years old, and back then they called me the contract guardian. Some said it with respect. Others rolled their eyes like I was the hall monitor of defense contracting. Always there, always checking, always somehow keeping us compliant with federal regulations that could shut down our entire operation. My official title was Senior Defense Contract Specialist. 14 years deep at Maritime Defense Systems in San Diego, 8 years before that in the Navy working radar systems on destroyers. 2 kids heading to college, a mortgage in California that required both my salary and my sanity. I didn't make noise. I made bulletproof government contracts. I didn't play golf with executives or schmooze during company retreats. I lived in the compliance requirements. While other people flirted with DCAA disaster, I was threading federal regulation needles like my family's future depended on it, which it did. Give me a red pen, a 50-page defense contract draft from sales, and a cup of Navy-strength coffee. And I was happier than a sailor on shore leave. I loved it. Really loved it. The precision, the stakes, the knowledge that cutting corners in defense work doesn't just cost money, it costs lives. At Maritime Defense, I was the gray uniform in a room full of civilian suits. Never flashy, never messy, just there, dependable. I kept us compliant with DCAA regulations, Defense Federal Acquisition Regulations, and International Traffic in Arms Regulations. 3 acronyms nobody in our San Diego office appreciated until everything started burning. Pierce sure didn't appreciate it. Pierce Hamilton, the new VP of Operations, 32 years old with a Wharton MBA and the kind of entitled swagger that made experienced contractors invisible. He didn't just dislike military veterans, he saw us as obstacles to modern business practices. Within his first week, he'd started bypassing compliance review on time-sensitive deals and creating fast-track approval processes that somehow never included the contracts department. I was military. That made me a dinosaur in his eyes, not in the dangerous sense, but in the I know what regulations you're breaking and why it'll explode kind of way. Pierce didn't want guardrails, he wanted yes men. He wanted to sign defense contracts fast, flip partnerships like startup deals, and get promoted before anyone noticed the compliance gaps. Me, I wanted to read the vendor clause that waived our rights to government oversight protections. Call me Old Navy. Before Pierce showed up, life was weirdly peaceful. I'd start my day with black coffee and a spreadsheet of open contracts. I liked the solitude of it, how every clause was a puzzle. Every deal was a minefield I could diffuse with the right compliance language. I spent years building a system where even if everyone around me lost their minds, the contracts wouldn't get us banned from federal work. I was the safety officer in a building full of risk takers. They didn't like that I pulled the emergency brakes sometimes, but they were still getting government contracts because of it. People forget that in defense companies like ours. The person who writes the compliance rules quietly becomes the most powerful person in the building. They just don't realize it until it's too late. Pierce blew in with that Wharton MBA and the kind of confidence that makes board members nod while experienced contractors become invisible. First day, he parked in his daddy's reserved spot. Did I mention he was CEO Patricia Hamilton's son? And announced to the entire office that we needed to move at commercial velocity. Translation: cut the compliance review, skip the DCAA assessment, and pray the government doesn't audit us. He was charming in that fast-talking, trust me I went to business school kind of way, had that fake, humble charisma that made junior staff swoon and board members nod. The kind of guy who ended every sentence with "makes sense." Like your understanding was part of his genius. He didn't just disregard military veterans. He treated us like expired equipment. The second he found out I'd served 8 years in the Navy, he smiled like I'd just confessed to still using a slide rule. I like fresh thinking, he said once, teeth gleaming. People who think differently. Which of course meant people who don't remember how we got audited by DCAA in 2019 for this exact stunt. Within weeks, he'd started muscling through contracts like they were Amazon purchases. Sales loved him. Engineering worshipped him, and compliance? Compliance was being left out of calls, pushed out of deal memos, and sent final drafts 10 minutes before signatures. It was like watching someone build a warship without checking if the hull would float, using fireworks instead of proper welding. I wasn't panicking yet. 14 years had taught me that defense companies go through phases. Bad managers come and go. Good contracts outlast them all. I kept doing my job, reading every line, flagging every DCAA risk, sending my careful memos up the chain. But Pierce wasn't just ignoring the warnings. He was actively bypassing the system, removing people from email threads, creating fast-track approval processes that somehow never included me, setting up side conversations with vendors before contracts even hit my desk. The guy was allergic to compliance, and in the defense contracting world, compliance isn't bureaucracy, it's survival. That's when I knew this wasn't going to end with Pierce learning his lesson or the board reining him in. This was going to end with someone getting hurt. The question was whether it would be me, the company, or both. Turns out, I'd spent years building the perfect trap. I just didn't know Pierce would be arrogant enough to step in it. Defense Contractor Revenge Story Part 2 6 months after Pierce got his walking papers. I was sitting in the executive boardroom at Maritime Defense Systems. Same glass table where they'd tried to destroy my career. Same leather chairs where they'd panicked about Clause 12B. But this time, I wasn't the guy getting fired. I was the guy they were begging to come back. "Rob, we need you," Patricia Hamilton said, sliding a contract across the table. The CEO herself, Pierce's own mother, looking like she'd aged 5 years and 6 months. Name your price. The irony wasn't lost on me. The woman whose son had called me military archaeology was now offering me a consulting contract worth more than my old salary and Pierce's combined. "Senior compliance advisor," she continued. "Full autonomy, direct report to the board. No one, and I mean no one, touches a contract without your signature." I picked up the offer, scanned it like I'd done 1,000 times before. Numbers looked good. Really good. But there was something else. I wanted more than money. "I want Pierce's old office," I said. Patricia's face went pale. "Rob, that's non-negotiable." I set the contract down, leaned back in the chair. "Glass walls, corner view, executive elevator access. And I want his parking spot." You could hear the air conditioning humming. Board members shifting in their seats. Patricia staring at me like I'd just asked for her firstborn, which in a way I had done, she said finally. That's how I ended up in Pierce's fishbowl, looking out at the San Diego harbor, drinking Navy-strength coffee from his old executive coffee machine. The same machine he'd used to brew that green health drink while he lectured me about staying in my lane. The first thing I did was hang my Navy discharge certificate on the wall, right where Pierce used to display his Wharton MBA. The second thing I did was install a proper filing system. The third thing was to call an all-hands meeting. "Morning, everyone," I said, standing at the front of the main conference room. Same room where they'd fired me. Same glass walls Pierce had loved so much. "I'm Rob Martinez, your new senior compliance advisor. Some of you know me, some of you don't. But everyone's going to know one thing about how we do business now." I clicked to the first slide of my presentation. A photo of a Navy destroyer cutting through rough seas. This is the USS Porter. I spent 3 years on her, maintaining radar systems that kept 300 sailors alive in hostile waters. You know what happens when you cut corners on a destroyer? People die. You know what happens when you cut corners on defense contracts? Companies die. Click. Next slide. A chart showing Maritime Defense's contract wins over the past 6 months. 0. We've won exactly 0 new federal contracts since Pierce Hamilton's fast-track program went into effect. You want to know why? Because DCAA flagged us as high risk after that radar system disaster. The Pentagon won't touch us with a 10-foot pole, murmurs around the room. Engineering guys looking uncomfortable. Sales teams suddenly very interested in their phones. But here's the good news. I continued. We're going to fix this. Together, the right way, the Navy way. Over the next 3 months, I rebuilt our compliance infrastructure from the ground up. Every contract template, every approval process, every vendor agreement. It was like performing surgery on a patient while they were still running a marathon. The engineering team hated me at first. They were used to Pierce's move fast and break things mentality. I made them slow down, document everything, follow proper ITAR protocols. This is bureaucracy. One young engineer complained during a design review. "Pierce never made us fill out this paperwork." Pierce got fired. I replied, not looking up from his technical specs. This paperwork keeps you employed. The sales team was worse. They'd gotten addicted to Pierce's promise, anything to close the deal approach. Now, I was making them actually read contracts before signing them. We're losing deals because of your process, the sales director complained. Boeing's getting impatient. Lockheed's threatening to walk. Good, I said. Let them walk if they can't wait for proper due diligence. We're not signing anything that gets us banned from federal work for the next decade. But slowly, things started to turn around. Our first clean contract win came 4 months after I took Pierce's office, a Navy radar upgrade project worth $12 million. Not huge, but clean. DCAA compliant. 0 red flags. The second win came 6 weeks later. Air Force Communication Systems, $18 million. Again, perfect paperwork. Full compliance review, proper ITAR classification. By month 8, we had a pipeline worth $85 million. All clean contracts, all properly reviewed, all following the protocols Pierce had tried to eliminate. The transformation wasn't just financial. The whole culture changed. Engineering started asking compliance questions up front instead of after they'd designed systems. Sales began involving me in client meetings instead of trying to hide deals until signature time. Even the coffee tasted better. One morning, Michelle Foster called me, my attorney, the shark who'd helped me dismantle Pierce's career. Rob, you need to see this, she said. Pierce is suing Maritime Defense. I nearly choked on my coffee. For what? Wrongful termination. He's claiming you orchestrated a conspiracy to destroy his reputation and steal his position. I sat back in Pierce's old chair, looking out at the harbor. A Navy destroyer was heading out to sea, probably carrying some of our radar systems. Send me the filing, I said. The lawsuit was 47 pages of pure delusion. Pierce claimed I'd manipulated Clause 12B to create a legal trap. He accused me of sabotaging his contracts, undermining his authority, and conspiring with outside regulatory agencies to damage his career. The most ridiculous part, he wanted $20 million in damages and demanded to be reinstated as VP of Operations. I called Patricia Hamilton's office. He's suing us, I said. When she picked up, I know, legal briefed me an hour ago. What do you think? I think Pierce just made the biggest mistake of his life. Again, 2 weeks later, we were back in federal court. But this time, I wasn't the defendant. I was the star witness in Maritime Defense's countersuit against Pierce Hamilton for defamation, breach of fiduciary duty, and what our lawyers called spectacular professional negligence. Pierce showed up in an expensive suit flanked by 2 attorneys who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. He'd put on weight, developed stress lines around his eyes. The entitled swagger was gone, replaced by something that looked almost desperate. When it was my turn to testify, I walked to the witness stand carrying a simple manila folder. Mr. Martinez, our attorney began, can you explain to the court how Clause 12B came to be included in your employment agreement? Objection. Pierce's lawyer interrupted. Relevance? Your Honor, our attorney replied. The plaintiff has accused Mr. Martinez of creating a legal trap. We believe the court should understand the legitimate purpose of this clause. Overruled. Please continue, Mr. Martinez. I opened the manila folder, pulled out a document that was 8 years old. In 2016, Maritime Defense was facing a DCAA audit. Our then General Counsel, Daniel Murphy, was concerned that employees who raised compliance issues might face retaliation. He asked me to draft protective language for senior staff employment agreements. I held up the document. This is my original draft of Clause 12B. It was reviewed by outside counsel, approved by the board, and included in 5 employment agreements for mission-critical compliance staff. Pierce's face had gone red. His attorneys were frantically whispering. Mr. Martinez, did you ever intend this clause to be used as a weapon against the company? No. I intended it to protect employees who were doing their jobs. Compliance officers, contract specialists, people whose job it was to say no when executives wanted to break federal regulations. The rest of my testimony was like reading a technical manual. Dry, factual, devastating. Every email, every escalation, every ignored warning laid out in chronological order. When Pierce took the stand, he tried to paint himself as a visionary reformer stifled by outdated military thinking. But under cross-examination, he crumbled like a badly welded joint. Mr. Hamilton, you testified that Mr. Martinez's compliance concerns were excessive. Are you familiar with Defense Contract Audit Agency Regulation 48 CFR 9904? Aye, that's very technical. Yes or no, Mr. Hamilton? No. Are you familiar with international traffic and arms regulations? Not in detail, export administration regulations? No. By the time our attorney was finished, Pierce looked like a first-year business student who'd wandered into a graduate-level engineering exam. The judge's ruling was swift and brutal. Not only did he dismiss Pierce's wrongful termination claim, he awarded Maritime Defense $850,000 in legal fees and damages. He also issued what lawyers call a stinging rebuke of Pierce's conduct. This court finds the plaintiff's claims to be not merely without merit, but frivolous and vexatious. Mr. Hamilton's conduct as described in the record represents a textbook example of why federal contractors require robust compliance oversight. Pierce walked out of that courtroom $850,000 poorer and permanently barred from holding any executive position at a defense contractor. His mother had to sell her Malibu beach house to cover the judgment. As for me, I walked back to my corner office, made a fresh pot of coffee, and got back to work. Sometimes the house doesn't just win. Sometimes it renovates itself and charges the old tenant for the privilege. Defense Contractor Revenge Story, Part 3. 2 years after Pierce's courtroom humiliation, I was standing in the Pentagon briefing room, presenting Maritime Defense's compliance record to a room full of Navy procurement officers. The same contracts Pierce had tried to ram through were now being held up as the gold standard for defense contractor governance. Gentlemen, I said, clicking to my final slide, Maritime Defense Systems has achieved something unprecedented in the defense industry. 0 compliance violations, 0 DCAA findings, and 0 contract disputes across $340 million in federal awards over 18 months. Admiral Rebecca Williams, the Navy's chief procurement officer, leaned forward. Mr. Martinez, what changed? Your company was flagged as high risk just 3 years ago. I smiled, thinking about Pierce's old move fast and break things philosophy. We stopped moving fast, Admiral. We started moving right. The room erupted in polite Pentagon laughter. These were military people. They understood the difference between speed and precision. After the briefing, Admiral Williams pulled me aside. Rob, I've got a proposition for you. How would you feel about leading a Navy-wide compliance initiative? We need someone who understands both the military mindset and the contracting reality. I was tempted, really tempted, but I had unfinished business back in San Diego. Thanks, Admiral, but I've got a good thing going at Maritime Defense. Maybe in a few years. She handed me her card anyway. When you're ready, back at the office, I found my assistant holding a stack of messages. Mr. Martinez, you've got calls from Lockheed, Boeing, and Raytheon. They're all asking about consulting contracts. The irony was perfect. The same companies that had hesitated to work with us during Pierce's reign were now lining up to pay for our compliance expertise. But the message that really caught my attention was from an unexpected source. Pierce Hamilton wanted to meet. I hadn't seen him since the courthouse. Word through the industry grapevine was that he'd burned through his trust fund paying legal bills and was working at some tech startup in Austin, trying to rebuild his career outside defense contracting. We met at a coffee shop in downtown San Diego. Neutral territory. Pierce looked different, older, humbler, wearing a regular business suit instead of his old designer threads. Rob, he said as I sat down, I owe you an apology. I sipped my coffee, black, no green health drinks for me, and waited. I was arrogant. I thought experience was just another word for being stuck in the past. I thought your military background made you inflexible. He paused, staring into his latte. I was wrong about everything. Yeah, you were. The worst part is, I cost the company millions. I cost people their jobs. And I nearly destroyed something my mother spent 30 years building. I studied his face. The entitled swagger was completely gone, replaced by something that looked like actual humility. What do you want, Pierce? I want to learn. I'm working at a small defense tech company in Texas. We're trying to get our first federal contract, but we keep failing compliance reviews. My boss doesn't know about my history with maritime defense. He just knows I have defense industry experience. He pulled out a folder, slid it across the table. Would you look at our contract proposal? Professional consultation? I'll pay your standard rate. I opened the folder, scanned the first few pages. It was a mess. ITAR violations on page 3, DCAA red flags throughout. the kind of amateur mistakes that would get them blacklisted before they even got started. This is garbage, Pierce. I know. That's why I'm here. For the next 2 hours, I walked him through every mistake, every regulatory pitfall, every compliance requirement they'd missed. It was like teaching a first-year engineering student, except this student was paying $500 an hour for the education. The key thing you have to understand, I explained, is that defense contracting isn't about being faster than your competition. It's about being more reliable, more compliant, more trustworthy than everyone else. The Pentagon doesn't want innovation for innovation's sake. They want innovation that works every time under the worst possible conditions. Pierce took notes like his life depended on it. Maybe it did. 3 months later, his company won their first federal contract, a small Navy communications project worth $2.8 million. Clean proposal, perfect compliance, 0 red flags. He called me the day they got the award. Rob, we did it. Clean contract, just like you taught us. Congratulations, how does it feel? Terrifying, he laughed. Now I have to actually deliver what we promised. Welcome to defense contracting. Word of Pierce's transformation spread through the industry faster than a Pentagon budget leak. The entitled MBA who'd tried to revolutionize defense contracting through sheer arrogance had become a humble student of proper procedure. It wasn't redemption. Pierce would never get his old life back. But it was something growth, maybe, learning from catastrophic failure. Meanwhile, maritime defense kept winning contracts, big ones. The Navy Radar Modernization Project, Air Force Satellite Communication Systems, a classified project I can't even name, but let's just say it had enough zeros to make Pierce's old salary look like lunch money. Patricia Hamilton called me into her office on a Friday afternoon, same office where she'd begged me to come back 2 years earlier. Rob, I'm retiring, she said without preamble. 30 years of building this company, and I'm tired. I want to spend time with my grandkids before I'm too old to enjoy it. I wasn't surprised. The Pierce lawsuit had aged her, and she'd been talking about succession planning for months. The board has been discussing replacements, she continued. Your name keeps coming up. Patricia, I'm a contracts guy. I'm not CEO material. You saved this company. You rebuilt our entire compliance infrastructure. You turned us from a regulatory nightmare into an industry leader. If that's not CEO material, I don't know what is. She slid a folder across the desk. Same gesture she'd used when offering me the compliance advisor role, but this folder was thicker. Chief Executive Officer, Maritime Defense Systems. Full board support, salary, and equity package that would make even Pierce's old trust fund look modest. I opened the folder, scanned the numbers. They were impressive. Really impressive. The kind of numbers that would set up my kids for life and let Maria retire early if she wanted. Think about it over the weekend, Patricia said. But Rob, this company needs someone who understands that doing things right is more important than doing them fast. Someone who knows the difference between innovation and recklessness. That weekend, I sat on my deck overlooking the harbor, watching Navy ships come and go. Maria brought me a beer, sat down in the chair next to mine. What are you thinking about? She asked. Whether a contracts guy can run a whole company? She was quiet for a moment, watching a destroyer disappear over the horizon. You know what I think? I think this company is lucky to have someone who remembers that the point of defense contracting isn't to get rich quick. It's to build things that keep our sailors and soldiers safe. Monday morning, I walked into Patricia's office and signed the contract. 3 months later, I was sitting in Pierce's old CEO chair, which I'd had reupholstered in navy blue, when my assistant buzzed me. Mr. Martinez, you have a call from the Pentagon. Admiral Williams. I picked up the phone, leaning back in the chair that had once belonged to a man who thought military experience was obsolete. Admiral, good to hear from you. Congratulations on the promotion, Rob. I heard you're running the whole show now. That's right. What can maritime defense do for the Navy? How would you feel about bidding on the next generation destroyer radar system? $2.8 billion contract, 10-year program. I smiled, looking out at San Diego Harbor where Navy ships carried the systems we'd built with precision, patience, and proper procedure. Admiral, I'd say you called the right company. Some people learn from their mistakes. Others learn from watching other people make mistakes. And sometimes, if you're really lucky, you get to turn someone else's mistakes into your own success story. Defense Contractor Revenge Story, Part 4. 5 years after becoming CEO, I was standing in the White House Rose Garden watching the president sign the National Defense Authorization Act. Maritime Defense Systems had 14 contracts worth $8.2 billion mentioned specifically in the legislation. Not bad for a company that Pierce Hamilton had nearly destroyed with his fast-track stupidity. Mr. Martinez, the president said, shaking my hand after the ceremony, your company's work on the Pacific Fleet modernization has been exceptional. The Navy tells me your radar systems performed flawlessly during the Taiwan exercises. Thank you, Mr. President. We believe in building systems that work the first time every time. Behind him, I spotted Admiral Williams, now Chief of Naval Operations, giving me a subtle thumbs up. The destroyer radar contract had turned into the most successful defense program in 20 years. Zero-cost overruns, ahead of schedule, and performing 15% better than specifications. The flight back to San Diego gave me time to think about how far we'd come. Maritime Defense was now the third largest defense contractor on the West Coast. We employed 8,000 people across 6 facilities. Our compliance record was still perfect, 5 years and counting without a single federal violation. But the real satisfaction wasn't in the numbers. It was in the culture we'd built. Walking through our main facility the next morning, I stopped by the engineering lab where a team was working on next-generation submarine sonar systems. The lead engineer, a 28-year-old kid named Anthony Davis, looked up from his workstation. Morning, Mr. Martinez. Want to see what we're working on? Always. He pulled up a 3D model on his screen. New passive sonar array for the Virginia-class subs. 40% improvement in detection range. 60% reduction in maintenance requirements. Impressive. How's compliance review going? Already flagged 3 ITAR issues and 2 export control concerns. Jennifer Thompson from Legal is helping us restructure the component specifications to meet all federal requirements. I smiled. Jennifer Thompson, our former company lawyer who'd gone pale when I'd shown her Clause 12B, was now our chief compliance officer. She'd learned from Pierce's mistakes just like everyone else. Good work, Anthony. Remember? I know, he grinned. Better to spend an extra month getting it right than 2 years explaining why we got it wrong. That afternoon, my assistant buzzed me with an unusual call. Mr. Martinez, there's someone on line 3 who says he used to work here. Pierce Hamilton? I hadn't heard from Pierce in over a year. Last I'd heard, his Texas company had grown into a respectable mid-size contractor specializing in drone systems. Apparently, learning proper procedure had been good for business. Pierce, what's going on? Rob, I need a favor. A big one. His voice sounded different, stressed. The humility from our coffee shop meeting had been replaced by something that sounded like panic. What kind of favor? My company just got hit with a DCAA audit. Full forensic review. They're going back 3 years, examining every contract, every procedure, every compliance decision I've made since I started this place. I leaned back in my chair, the same chair Pierce had once used to lecture me about staying in my lane. And they found issues, big ones, not the kind of amateur mistakes you helped me fix 5 years ago. Real problems, cost-shifting violations, inadequate documentation, possible billing irregularities. Pierce, what are you asking me? I need the best compliance attorney on the West Coast. I need someone who understands DCAA procedures better than the auditors do. I need someone who's been through this kind of investigation and come out clean. I was quiet for a long moment, looking out at San Diego Harbor. A new destroyer was heading out to sea, probably carrying our latest radar systems. Pierce, you realize what you're asking. You want me to help save the company you're running using the expertise I gained cleaning up the mess you made at my company? Yes. The simple honesty of that answer caught me off guard. Why would I do that? Because despite everything that happened between us, you're not the kind of person who lets people drown when you have the ability to throw them a life preserver. He was right, and we both knew it. I'll make some calls. 3 days later, Michelle Foster was on a plane to Austin. My old attorney, the shark who dismantled Pierce's wrongful termination lawsuit, was now working to save his company from federal prosecution. The audit took 4 months. Every day, Michelle would call with updates. Pierce's company hadn't been maliciously fraudulent, just sloppy. Inadequate internal controls, poor documentation, the kind of systematic compliance failures that could have been avoided with proper procedures. Sound familiar? In the end, Pierce's company paid $2.8 million in penalties and agreed to 3 years of enhanced oversight. They didn't lose their federal contracting license, but they came close. close enough to scare Pierce straight for the rest of his career. When it was over, Pierce called to thank me. "Rob, I don't know how to repay you. Your attorney saved my company. Probably saved my career. Just don't make the same mistakes again." "Never. I've hired a former Navy compliance officer as my COO. We're implementing the same procedures you use at maritime defense. We're even buying your training materials." After hanging up, I sat in my office thinking about the strange turns life can take. The man who'd tried to destroy my career was now paying to learn from my success. The entitled MBA who dismissed military experience was now hiring Navy veterans to run his operations. That evening, Maria and I were having dinner on our deck when she asked about my day. I helped save Pierce Hamilton's company today. She nearly choked on her wine. "Pierce? The one who fired you? The same one. Why would you do that?" I thought about it while watching the sunset paint the harbor gold. Because holding grudges is expensive. Because redemption is possible. And because sometimes the best revenge is watching someone learn to do things your way. 6 months later, Pierce's company won their largest federal contract ever, a $450 million drone program for the Air Force. The proposal was a masterpiece of compliance documentation, following every procedure I developed at Maritime Defense. The announcement made the front page of Defense News. The article quoted Pierce extensively about his company's uncompromising commitment to regulatory compliance and ethical business practices. I cut out the article and hung it next to my Navy discharge certificate. Not as a trophy, but as a reminder that sometimes the most satisfying victory isn't destroying your enemy. It's turning them into someone who finally understands what you were trying to teach them all along. The following week, I got another call from the Pentagon. This time it wasn't about contracts or compliance reviews. "Mr. Martinez, this is General Patricia Collins, Air Force Chief of Staff. I'm calling about the Defense Industrial Base Innovation Initiative. We're looking for industry leaders to help us develop new approaches to contractor oversight and compliance." "What did you have in mind, General?" "We want to create a new standard for defense contractor governance. Based on what you've built at Maritime Defense, we'd like you to chair the committee." I looked out at the harbor, where another Navy ship was heading out to patrol the Pacific. Somewhere on that ship were systems my company had built, maintained by sailors who trusted our work to keep them safe. "General, I'd be honored. Sometimes the house doesn't just win, sometimes it gets to write the rules for everyone else." In the defense industry, the person who writes the rules doesn't just survive the game, they eventually own the board. And sometimes the most dangerous weapon you can give someone is the contract they think they understand. 20 years in military and defense taught me that arrogance sinks ships faster than enemy fire, but patience and precision can turn your opponent's overconfidence into your greatest strategic advantage.